Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am once again building something from the Legend of Zelda series. Tears of the Kingdom was released recently and I have been playing the mess out of the game. I really enjoy the building aspect that they've added to the game, which is you can craft vehicles and weapons and shields and all kinds of stuff. So I was looking in my inventory to kind of thumb through interesting things that I could possibly build. And what really stood out to me was the Zonaite. It is a material used to make the vehicles and some of the armor and stuff. And I thought it would be cool to try and bring that into the real world. So today we are going to make some large Zonaite from Tears of the Kingdom out of foam. Let's get to building. So when I say it's used to make vehicles, let me clarify, because I realize not everybody's played the game. Zonaite is a material in the game that can be used in several ways. You can turn it into battery cells, power Zonai devices, and use it to create objects using auto build. I just thought it looked really cool and I wanted to make it. So with my Switch in hand, I drop the item and kind of mess around with it and eventually put it on a stand so that I can see the object on all sides. The shape seems fairly simple with 6 sides. It's basically a distorted cube. So I hand draw how I think it looks onto some poster board. Once I have it cut out, I draw on the ridges and other details that I will transfer onto the foam later. This pattern will be in the description below the video if you would like to make your own for yourself, or for a family member, or a stranger, or your enemy. So with my patterns all mapped out with registration marks, labels, angle cuts, and orangish gold patterns marked, I am ready to transfer the outline onto my foam. With a Sharpie, I mark the perimeters, making sure to also color in the U-shaped bits on the edges. Those are registration marks that I will use later to help me piece the parts together. I'm using 10mm HD foam from SKS Props to give me lots of real estate to carve into later. Once I have it traced, I angle my hobby knife inward at a 45-degree angle and cut just inside my lines on all my parts. With all the edges being 45s, this will hide my seams at least a little bit, and make sure to read the cover page on my templates. It explains all the markings and gives you a list of materials and tools you'll need for the build. Now I'm ready to assemble. I put down a layer of contact cement on all the edges and let them sit for a few minutes. When the contact cement is no longer wet, it's ready to stick together. Using my registration marks, I start piecing together all the parts. With this build, if you get a little off, it's okay because Zonaite is kind of an odd shape, very organic, and has a lot of ridges that you can hide your mistakes in. So you may have wondered why I didn't transfer on the other markings on yet. I knew that I was going to have to sand over the edges to kind of round them a bit, which would have meant I had to redraw the corners again. So instead I'm doing it now. Now you could cut out each of these lines and trace them on exactly, but I'm just going to put dots on the edges where those lines meet at and then kind of freehand it using my pattern as a reference. Doing it this way will also give me the ability to tie in the ridges to the other sides as they kind of cascade over the corners. I don't know how many of you are comfortable with your engraving abilities, but this would be a great build to practice on. It doesn't have to be perfect, and all these blue lines I've made are getting carved in. You could also do the opposite and add materials to the top of it if you'd prefer. I considered using clay foam to make the ridges instead, but literally had less than a day to pull this build together. So with an aggressive sanding flap drum on my rotary tool and a respirator on to protect my lungs, I began carving out the ridges for my Zonaite. Once done, I go back over all the surfaces with a stone bit to smooth the surface. To add a little bit more dimension, I cut some triangle dowels in the 10mm foam and I'm going to glue it just around the top two little swirly circles. If I had more time, I probably would have added some more layers to give it more dimension, but like I said, I was running out of time. Initially, I was working on another build for this week, and after 4 days of work, I realized I would not be done on Friday, so I had to pivot. This was all made on Thursday in a span of about 5 or 6 hours, the day before my typical uploads. You will see the other build next week. Spoilers if you're paying attention, this will be something related to the Binding of Isaac 4 Souls card game. Don't tell anybody. Now for 2 coats of, you guessed it, Plasti Dip. Once dry, I added various shades of blue, green, turquoise, and teal spray paint to the bottom and the dots on the top. To start off my paint job, I wanted to give it a little shine. This doesn't really translate well into the photos that you see, but you can definitely see the shimmer in person. I'm going to cover all the spray painted areas with a color shifting paint by Plaid Effects. I think it's called their Mutant series. It just has a little bit of shiny, sparkly, shifty stuff mixed in with the paint. The Zonaite in the game glows a little bit, so you could use a clear foam to build this with and have a lighting element on the inside, but I didn't have any of that EVA on hand, so I'm going to fake it. In all the bluish green areas, I'm going to add a lighter shade. Once all that is dried, I'm going to make a second pass in the very bottom groove with a pure white. The top of the Zonaite has a dark gray color with just a hint of purple in it, at least what I could tell from looking at the screen. I hand paint on the ridges. You can't see it, but my switch is just off camera to the left, so I can use it as a reference throughout the paint process. Once dried, I mix an orangish gold color for the yellow highlighted areas on my template, and then finish off everything with a smattering of lighter shades on edges in certain areas to make all the details pop. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty good. It's not 100% accurate, but I literally from start to finish made this in maybe 5 or 6 hours total. That's making a template, cutting it out of foam, carving it, painting it, while videotaping all of it. So not too bad for a quick build. And I think it looks pretty cool. Even, I don't know, something I'd put on a shelf and stare at for a while. Maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to pull something from a video game and make it a reality that you can then just stare at. Maybe. Maybe you'll get some. Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? Give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I'm gonna go build some weird vehicles in the game. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to make a bigger, better, more creative community together.